What if you could slide into 1,000 different worlds where it's the same year and you're the same person, but everything else is different? And what if you can't find your way home? Well, Robert Jeffries and I found the gateway. Now the problem is finding a way back home. This is Stumbling Through the Multiverse, a Sliders recap with Rain Coleman and Robert Jeffries II. What's up, y'all, and welcome back for another week. I guess maybe this is the 9th week. Who knows? We are dealing with multiple timelines, multiple universes. This is Stumbling Through the Multiverse, the official Sliders 1995 Sliders review. I am your co-host, Rain Coleman, and I'm happy to be here, but I have a lot of thoughts. And I'm gonna kick it to you, Robert. What's up, man?
What's going on? I'm Robert. I am co-host, Robert Jeffrey, co-host of Stumbling Through the Multiverse, this Sliders recap show. And I've been having fun, but it definitely has shown a new light onto this series as a whole. So,
Man.
going through these reviews with Rain. So we are here for yet another episode.
God, yes. So this one is, I'm trying to, hold on, what the hell? This is episode 9. This is The King is Back. I am going to embarrass myself because before I even read the description, that's not something that I did before jumping into this episode. So what I did was I saw the title and I just pressed play. And I thought, okay, I was trying to go off of what you said at the end of the last episode, like, okay, this is something that we've talked about or whatever. And I could not for the life of me narrow down whatever it was. And so in my mind, I said, oh, this is about Martin Luther King Jr. Which is like, what about this show was suggested? Bro, I felt so stupid like in the first like 3 minutes. I was like, okay, well, clearly we're not going there. So oh my God. So in this episode, it is the Sliders are treated like royalty when Rembrandt is mistaken for his double, a musician who achieved all the fame Rembrandt could never want. And I don't know why I didn't read that. Like, honestly, every other episode we've watched, I've looked at the synopsis. Don't be like me, kids, because clearly I don't have it all together.
I mean, I kind of appreciate that you didn't read the synopsis because I told you like last week, I was like, this is a very special episode, right?
Yeah.
It's good that you go in with no idea.
Yeah, I will not be reading anymore. I'm just watching. What you got, man? What are your general thoughts? How are you feeling?
So, general thoughts, this goes back to something that you had mentioned, because we have spoken about this on, I think, several episodes. This is a Rembrandt-centric episode, and it's something we've been asking for a while because he is always the B-plot person, right? Or he is always like supporting the others with their larger plot. So we got that, right? And I'm kind of like on the fence about this episode because I do think that the humor works in spots, but also think like it also always keep coming back to why is the comedy always kind of focused centrally on him, or on his circumstance. So I'm kind of in the middle of the road with this one.
Okay, I think that's fair. I'm going to make a connection that I don't know if people will be offended by it, but this episode to me felt like prosperity gospel. Or it's like that's the connection I made, and I was so mad. Like the episode itself, I did enjoy. I'm not going to act like it was terrible. I liked this episode, but and this speaks more so to the like very end, not even the full episode. But I was like, oh, I have a lot of thoughts about this, the way this happened. But overall, I enjoyed the episode. I think, much like what you said with Rembrandt being the B plot or the comic relief for every episode, it was good to see him and to see his potential. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It was good to see that. There was still some
I mean, no, there was some goofy shit in this. There was some really, like the screenshot that I shared on Bluesky with Maurice.
Yes.
Just like we got some specialness in this. To something that you said, with him being central, we get a chance to kind of see how he does in the lead, and I think this is really reflective of where they go with him in later seasons, where he is. I mean, he basically becomes like the de facto leader of the group. Without getting into specifics, and also them getting away from him being the comedic relief, so so I think that's a good thing in this episode's corner, so to speak. So let me know when you're ready to jump in.
Let's go.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and say I love this opening because it was crazy. Yeah. So because these episodes once again are not connected, we have them slide into we open up in a world that we have never seen before. Quinn once again is in jail. There's no explanation.
No.
The camera follows a lady to his jail cell or to an interrogation room or whatever, and to his cell, I think. And she tells him, she says, I need you to just plead insanity. Tell them your story about sliding. And in parentheses, I was like, why won't he just do that? But, it is what it is. So Quinn is like, he's like, no, I'm not going to do it for my reasons. I don't think he gives a reason. And so he's taken to court. So it's, I'm like, okay. So when he gets to court, the sliders are there, and this judge who, for kids who this is history, he looks like, I'm sorry, they styled him up to, I think, look like Judge, what was it, Judge Ito from the judge from the O.J. Simpson. Yeah, because, and I think that's something that they come back to. So that's the main reason why I mentioned that. But he gets, they get to the court. His his lawyer tries to convince him still to do the insanity thing. But anyway, so he's convicted on by 9 of his peers, which is, one thing. They don't have 12 of his peers. And he's convicted of doing graffiti on I think it was on like a bridge or an overpass. And his sentence is death by lethal injection. So we don't get a whole backstory about, was this something that our Quinn actually did, or that the Quinn of this world had done. Either way, he got convicted. So the lawyer immediately, and this is like typical like Law and Order type of shit, I appeal, right?
Yeah.
And so she appeals like twice. She brings up the insanity thing. And then this, after both times that it's like, and actually in our world, the appeal comes afterwards, right? So it doesn't come immediately after. So,
right.
So she does it like twice. But I'm like, okay, things work differently. Judge turns it down, and then she turns to him and says, well, that's it. Even Quintus is like, what the hell? He's like, wait, this is your process. And she says, she's like, what do you mean? This is how it's been since this. And she gives a piece of legislation that's happening in the world. So the sliders are sitting in the back, and they're concerned. And like, you're sitting here thinking maybe that a viewer is thinking like, okay, maybe this is the world that they're going to be on. Maybe this is going to be something that drags out until the actual thing. Like, we've been here before on the monarchy world. The writer said, fuck that. The timer goes off. And this turns into like knuckle up. The timer goes off. The woman that the portal is shot next to, the stenographer, she does the appropriate thing. She gets the fuck out of Dodge because she doesn't know what's going on. Wade jumps into the portal. The professor knocks out one of the cops, and the cop falls back, and then he jumps through, and then Rembrandt punches another cop, and then him and Quinn jump through, and the lawyer says he was telling the truth, and then that's how they cut to the credits.
This is so chaotic. This is so chaotic. The only thing that made me mad is going to be the same thing that makes me mad every episode. Why did they point that portal like it was on the other side of the room? I was like, you are all congregated right here. Quinn is walking past you. Just shoot it at the floor. I was like, what? But I mean, I guess you wouldn't have got that big fight scene. That was freaking chaotic. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I did like that opening. I wish we had to spend just a little bit more time there, maybe a couple more minutes, because because this was just a temporary world, I like the idea of kind of drawing out the truth. So now that you know that he was not lying, I want to see those effects on these people, even for just a little bit longer. Like, this is unprecedented. Now we got to go into the mental health facilities and talk to them. But like, maybe I wanted something that I don't know exactly what, but it's like, y'all see this. You were about to kill this man. If nothing else, can we maybe rewrite our punishments? Like, to be like, maybe not lethal injection today. So I don't know, but I did thoroughly enjoy that. I like the idea that Queen had to jump with handcuffs on. It was like, okay, how are we going to handle that if we get to this next world? So I did like that. I like that.
Yeah. That one lady is going to be traumatized for the rest of her life. She and we haven't seen that type of reaction to them sliding. Everybody always seems amazed. It goes from amazement to like a really horrible actor just looking at, you can tell they're looking at nothing on set, and they're not reacting appropriately. So so that's the opening. So then we cut back to the same court which the team slides into on a different world, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this Rembrandt Elvis world. Rembrandt. So they go into the court. They slide in. The court is empty. They are there for 3 days. And as they walk out of the courthouse, and Quinn is still handcuffed, but he's trying to be, trying to hide it. As they're walking out in front of the courthouse, people are walking by them and laughing and smiling at the group. And then specifically, you see that it's directed at Rembrandt. So one of the other things that I noticed is that there's this one tall black guy. He was like, this is my 5 minutes of fame. And one thing that we will say in this episode, as with the episode where the Summer of Love or the Slide, whatever it was called, there are a lot of black people in this episode as compared to, and it's interesting when they bring in people of color, into this world, rather than just kind of making it more of a regular thing that we exist here. So the Vancouver casting call went out, and they got all the brothers and sisters. So they're walking, people are laughing, and then this guy walks up to the group, and he just does an info dump. He does just as bad as the Amish lady from Eggheads. He's like, hey, are you in town for the Crying Man convention? And I don't think they even get to say no before he says, yeah, it's a convention that's in town for Crying Man aficionados. Where have you guys been? And it's this really weird delivery. But it's just there and then he just walks away, Crying Man. And so so the professor, so now they've established from this info dump that they are on a world where Rembrandt is well known. They don't know the terms if it just goes back to his time spent with his group or by himself. So as they're walking, Rembrandt obviously is like, he's excited because he's, people are kind of appreciating him on this world. The thing that I noticed is that Professor and Wade are being assholes. Yeah, when we get to finish this scene, like, that's the one thing that pops out. They're like hating, and I can't remember exactly what they're saying, but it's just like they're trying to temper down this man's happiness. Like, let him be happy. So as they walk, there's the second black person we see in this episode. A black woman yells because she's like basically a excited fan because she sees that he looks like the real, their Rembrandt. And so at this point, like a group of fans behind her, they chase after them like they're the Beatles or something, like Fab Four. And then they get into this motel, which is run by the same guy from the Fever episode, the actor Will Sasso. So this goes back to them often using the same actors, which is good. It just kind of establishes a kind of a through line for each of these worlds. And as they come in, Will Sasso sees Remy, and then he starts singing one of his songs to him because he's a big fan, and he obviously thinks that Rembrandt is an impersonator. And he explains that, and this info dump doesn't seem as bad. He actually mentions that from their conversation, that what happened was when Rembrandt left his group, was it the Spinning Tops? I think, whatever it was, but his group, his career skyrocketed. So it actually went the opposite of, like, let's say David Ruffin from like the Temptations or whatever. So and this is so we have that, and I think they even mentioned one of his songs, Tears in My Fro, being very successful. And Rembrandt is just like he's loving it, and it just whatever. So they get a room. Wade is actually, she takes the cuffs off of Quinn, and Quinn is like, when they get the room, Quinn says, how do you know how to do that? And she just smiles at him, and it's just like, what is going on? So Rembrandt, they're watching. Rembrandt's still excited. They start watching like Skipper's Island, which is a on TV, which I love. And then there's on the news, there's a reveal that on this world, Remy's double, and I'm just going to call him Remy 2. He died. He disappeared 8 years ago, and pretty much had kind of an Elvis-like status. Like that. That's what they keep referencing. And what happens is word has spread that he's back because they show a picture of Rembrandt and the other three sliders, and it has people thinking that this guy is back. So all that, them on the street to the first scene in the motel. What are your thoughts?
Fuck Wade, fuck the Professor. They are some haters. I think the writers did not. I don't feel like this was maybe intentional. I think it was just, I'm writing this dynamic, and I'm not making excuses for them, but it's like the optics are very weird that y'all are constantly nitpicking this man. Especially on a world where he gets what he wants. You know what I'm saying? Like that was so weird to me. It felt like trying to put this man in his place, because when Arturo was in Other Worlds and he was like the president and the leader of whatever, we didn't get that. It was this sophisticated, you have to be the other person. Even when they got to what was that, the communism world, even then, not that she was a celebrity, but you had a station, and you having this station allowed us to meet these rebels and to be accepted and safe. And even when she was what world was that, when we went to Rembrandt's funeral, when she was the flower
sex. The flower. Yeah.
So you were this, though she wasn't a huge part of the episode, you were able to be this like flower child deity, and nobody trashed y'all.
I mean, except the Professor.
First of all, he's a fucking in this episode, it's fuck them too, but it's always gonna be fuck the Professor.
Yeah, it's always gonna be
so fucking weird. That he will never be happy. God dang it, fuck him. But like Rembrandt, the one who was from the beginning accidentally pulled into this shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I have my issues with him, but it's like, man, he finally gets something that what is the only thing that he wants? This is the only thing that this man has ever wanted. And y'all talk shit, which is so crazy. Another thing I want to point out is with the news program. First of all, that news anchor, she was a beautiful black woman. I'm like, where is she in all these other episodes? Use her more. She was pretty as hell.
Yeah. And she could act.
Yes, say that. That was an actress. That was somebody who knew how to read lines. It wasn't come over here, black man singing on the corner. I'm your sugar mama. She pointed out that Arturo and Quinn are also famous in this world. And at first I was a little annoyed by that, but then I was like, what I settled on was them being also famous does not bother me because they're not the center. Like they're not. So I could be upset that also they get some spot, but I am not that worried about that. I do like seeing Homeboy from Mad TV again. I felt for Rembrandt in this moment because I am shackled to you three losers for the foreseeable future, and yet I get one thing I want, and you motherfuckers is haters. I would have kicked all of them. And well, Quinn wasn't hating, so maybe not him, but
it was, and it was this thing of, often in these types of episodes, it's this thing of like somebody gets a big head and then, people have to bring them back down to earth. They had literally landed on this earth and the brother was just like, wow, I'm happy. And then Wade was like, fuck you, motherfucker. And then the person was like, yeah, fuck you. And it was weird. It's this whole, like you said, this belittling thing where, and it doesn't, we can still have those episodes where people are, you're tired of each other, you need to take a break, but this seemed unnecessary. So it was weird.
Very.
So the next thing we have is they cut to the office of Captain Jack Brim, who was apparently Rembrandt 2 or whatever, his agent back before he died. And now apparently Captain Jack's business or agent, as an agent, he hasn't been able to find talent as big as Rembrandt had been on his earth. So when we get there, he has these and they're an actual group. I think they're called the Rubio Sisters. It's like these three older women that from back in the day, and they sing country music, but they're doing a country cover of Devo with it. And so basically, things are bad when you got this, when you got what he's doing. So the news anchor, I think her name is Penny Jensen from earlier. His secretary or receptionist comes in and says, the news anchor, is here to interview him. And when she comes in, he thinks that, this is an opportunity for him to promote his current acts, but she's there to talk about Rembrandt. And he thinks that because the convention's in town, they just want to do like a retrospective and talk about the good old days. And then she's like, oh, you haven't heard, he is back. So Captain Jack is, he gets excited or he just looks confused. So we cut back to, that was basically it, right? Actually, no, I'm sorry. He goes through a book. He goes through this book of these different acts, and it's just showing more and more like bad performers. I think there's one guy who, and actually I wouldn't mind listening to music, but there was one guy who is he's from China and he does country music, and then he says something like, well, if we can ever get him out of China, we can, he can.
I was like, what? What?
Right. And he goes to the book, and that's when she says, I'm not here for them. And she's not an ass about it, but she says, I'm here for Rembrandt because he's back. And so he's like, he's like, oh, okay. So the next scene, we go to the motel. and they're watching on TV. This is where they're leaning really into like the Elvis side of things. Is they see on the TV there's a footage or him perform like a music video of Remy on a surfboard with like a Hawaiian themed uh shirt on, and he's like singing like Elvis, and it's really bad, and he has a Jerry curl wig on. It's just like, so just to show that this is some of the stuff he was doing. And it's funny because like everybody, they're kind of laughing at it. They're like, and even Remy's like, yeah, this is kind of ridiculous. But this is when they mention this guy comes on TV, and they turn the channel. There's on another channel, this host is saying like, this brings up other questions about the people in his group, and they say that Quinn is Jim Morrison from The Doors, that he's returned from the dead, and that the professor is Pavarotti. Is that how you pronounce it? Like the Italian opera singer. And so anyway, so it's just ridiculousness. And a news story comes up and gives a little bit more information. Captain Jack is being interviewed and talks about and says that, well, ever since Rembrandt was lost sponge fishing somewhere in the tropical islands or whatever, he's just died. And he said that if Rembrandt had come back, he would have let him know, because he was his, I think about the first Batman, when Joker says to Bob, he says, "You're my number one ace," or whatever. So whatever. I'm sorry, like my number one. So sorry, kids, go watch the Burton Batman. So he they're just TV's giving more of the backstory. They come back to the agent's office where he's finished the interview. And he says that since Rembrandt is back, it'll basically help his career. So we got like kind of like jumping back and forth. And then we go back to the motel where word is out to the fans that this is where Rembrandt and the Sliders is staying. And so Rembrandt sees a crowd at the front, which is being held back by police. And then Rembrandt's like, well, let me just go give my fans what they want. They probably, and he's mentioned something about like, y'all are my entourage. And so this is when he starts getting a big head. But as soon as he steps out, he starts getting mauled. Like you can't see him. They lose him. The professor decides to be the one to go out to save him, and he gets fucked up because Rembrandt comes back in and with his shirt torn off, but he's like, I love it. He has like, somebody apparently kissed his shirt. He said an old woman put him in a chokehold and whatever. And so then and we look out and the professor is being crowd surfed above everybody. And when he comes back in, he has no pants on and his shirt is torn up. And so when he comes back in, he tells the Sasso's character, the motel clerk, that you got to get us a police escort. I mean, but he's also saying it like the professor pissed as fuck. And then Sasso calls him. He's like, well, Mr. Pavarotti, and he says, Pavarotti, he talks like this, like he's like, I'm not Italian. And the funny thing about it is like Quinn is just in the back, like he's trying not to like laugh. But the other thing that the professor says is that the only way these people knew that we were here was if you told people. And so Captain Jack comes in at that moment. He gets inside. He paid some of the security to get inside. And one of the things he mentions is like, this is this is as crazy as when Michael Jackson rejoined Public Enemy.
I shouted. What?
I was like, we need that episode.
Really?
And so the agent, he makes a deal with the professor to get them out. And let me stop it right there because there's a lot of craziness that happens after that. So like these few scenes, like any thoughts?
I want to go back just a little bit. It may be me in my American brain socialize, but I thought that the handcuff and I only remember this because we saw Quinn in his towel in the other scene, but I thought the handcuff thing was maybe alluding to some maybe freaky sexual thing with her and Quinn, but there wasn't really a payoff with them in this episode. So I'm like, am I just thinking too X-rated or like what?
No, I mean, so they leave it open. I think they leave it open to interpretation because all she does is like this small smile. So it could be like, you know, shit, I got experience because, you know, BDSM, I love this shit, right?
I mean, she kiss everybody,
right. But then on the flip side of that, like maybe she has some experience with getting out of handcuffs because she got picked up by the cops once or twice.
Yeah, she is a rebel leader. One thing that I thought, and maybe this is me and like also like desirability politics, so I might be out of line, but when we went to Captain Jack's office and he was showing Penny all those photos, everybody looked old. I know the Chinese guy was like supposed to be a little younger, and Rembrandt himself, I don't know. He looks like an older man, and then those three white ladies who were singing the Devo cover, they were older. Then the white man who played the guitar, who had the headshot, like everybody in his book looked older. And so I was wondering if maybe a aspect of this world that wasn't explicitly discussed is that older people are the superstars. There was no 20-something whoever, like how we in this world prioritize beauty to the point where you can't age or you can never have no work. So that was never explicitly stated, but that's the impression I got. Yes, those three white ladies was probably supposed to be taken as just a joke, but remember when the camera crew left and he called his assistant in and that other lady stood up, that was not no young white lady, that was an older white lady too. So I was wondering, like, is older acts part of the appeal of this world? Like the older you get, the more
like popular,
famous or popular. Yeah, I was like, that would be. Maybe that's me connecting dots that ain't there, but I or maybe they just were the extras who were available. But that's something that was really interesting to me, and I would have loved to have seen that at least mentioned. Damn, there was something else. Quinn, damn near naked, watching TV. This is where the professor, and this always comes down to being in a hotel room with the TV on, and the professor is a fucking hater. He did this shit to Wade on the Weaker Sex episode, and he's doing the same shit. We all having a good time, but you so angry that you ain't the center of attention that you got to change the channel. But we still getting information about him because, for all intents and purposes, this man is Beyonce. This man is Michael Jackson. Like, there's no. So I'm like, well, you are a hater, ugly. Like, and then you're not even leaning into the Paviati who you're suspected to be. Like, man, he's a hater. I can't stand that ugly self. But yeah, no, I did like this. The more we talk it through, and I'm watching it while we're talking, I think that this is one of those episodes that was also done really well as far as beats. It felt really tight, and there's nothing in this episode that feels like it shouldn't be there, or without it you don't lose something, not considering the opening, because that just is what it is. But no, I like this, and though I don't like the professor, I do like him rushing out after Rembrandt, like this whole I'm not your fucking entourage, but also like, well, we still need to all be safe. So I'm not mad at that as much as I was when I first watched it, but all in all, with all the craziness, I'm still okay right here at this point.
We haven't got to crazy yet. We're like we haven't got to insane yet. And to your point about this being like a tight episode, they didn't have to save the world.
Yes,
right?
Lord.
So it seems as if those episodes that we're kind of more vibing with are the ones where they don't necessarily have to save the world. They just go in, some shit happens, and then they move on. So right after that, they trust in Captain Jack Brim to help them find a way out or to get out of the motel. And as they're going into the alleyway behind the motel, Remy, that's the other thing. Before I skip, I'm skipping the big thing. Captain, and he must have worked like within like hours to set this stuff up. He pitches this idea for like this huge pay-per-view live concert that's going to preempt broadcast network TV and he tells Rembrandt, you will get paid $1 million per song.
Yes.
So in Rembrandt's mind, he's like, y'all are done. This is me. This is me now. This is me now. This is my world.
Yes.
So he accepts. The agent takes him out, to their car. He and his assistant or his receptionist. And as they get into the alleyway, they notice that Remy's car, Rembrandt's car from the first episode, is in the alley. And Quinn says something about it, but he keeps moving. And then Rembrandt is like looking at the car. He looks at he's like taking a long damn time looking at this car, and the license plate reads, I think it's Crybaby, KRY baby. Yeah. So as he's standing there looking at it, this guy, he's approached by a Morris Day reject, and I'm sorry. And so the guy says Rembrandt said they're talking about the car, and then the guy pulls out a champagne bottle and says, I just want to celebrate you being back, and then knocks Rembrandt out. He falls into the car, and then he kidnaps him and just drives away. And the sliders turn around and they're like, "Oh shit, what happened?" So the next scene we get to is a tropical island, and we see the actual Rembrandt watching the news about his return. And I think he says something like, he reacts to it, and he's just. You can tell he's not happy about it.
Yeah.
Minor note: this is his brother in real life,
which I did not know through this entire episode.
Okay, this is his little piece of Sliders trivia. And what's crazy? Yeah, and his name is Clinton Derrick Carroll.
Okay.
So but he I was like, did they even give this brother a credit? So anyway, they and so then they go back to the agent's office, Captain Jack, and Quinn and everybody, the team, they want to call the police. They want to, they're worried that something's going to happen. Something has happened. He got knocked down and kidnapped. And the every time that and they say Remy might be hurt, and every time they mention this to the Captain Jack is like, no, he doesn't want to call the police, because first he thinks it was a rival cable network that kidnapped him. Yeah, it was a lot of stupid shit. And he wants to kind of push on with the concert and finding replacement acts, and they say that also if you call the police, then he may hurt Rembrandt. And then the professor says something like, that is true. And it's just like, okay, whatever. You don't care about this man's life. So then Captain Jack says, just wait here and we will work it out. And I was just like, okay. So as soon as he leaves, Quinn says, fuck that, I'm calling the police. So at least I didn't sit there and do nothing. So the next thing we have is now in this basement where Rembrandt is being held, and it was spinning top. It's a spinning top, and he's been kidnapped by this guy named Maurice Fish. And to the show's credit, this dude he appeared in that music video "Cry Like a Man."
Okay.
From the first episode.
Okay.
So he is there. So they brought him back later on, for this episode, which was cool. So he's a former Spinning Top member in this world who, I'm sorry, this may be the wrong word to say, but who is crazy. And he wants Rembrandt to sign an agreement saying that Maurice was the brains behind the group, and that all the fame and I think all the songs are written by him or some shit like that. And Rembrandt remembers him from his world, right? And so, but also, you don't know this dude.
There we go.
Right. And then he just starts laughing in his face. I mean, like, Maurice on Your World might have been like a pushover, a punk ass, weak ass. Excuse me, I was about to say the word. But here, he is obviously disturbed to the point where he's kind of fun for me because he's like, this is where the camp comes in.
Yes.
And once again, like I said on the episode of Eggheads, where I couldn't do justice to the Latin speaking mafioso intelligent, I can't do justice to this brother's work.
Who can? Who can?
Right. So Maurice threatens to, at this point, kill him and to take his tongue, to cut out his tongue. And that's when Rembrandt stops laughing. So your thoughts about Maurice's introduction,
this shit.
The agent saying, like, don't call the police, all that.
This shit is wild. I was so pissed off at Rembrandt through a lot of this. And I guess I maybe shouldn't be, because you're getting all the things you want. So there is a level of, for lack of a better word, carelessness that you're going to have because you finally have what you've always wanted. Because for me, a red flag was, if I on this world am missing, why is my car here? I'm not stopping by this car. And when that man popped up from behind them, was
like trash.
I was like, if this person was really here for you, true enough, people were outside the front door trying to get to you, but he has your car. I was like, okay, this is the cartoonish villain that I need then, because clearly he's smarter than y'all. Quinn, didn't he run after Rembrandt, a moving car?
He ran after,
I'm talking about in the other world when they were what was it? Was it the Peace and Love world where remember when the police came for them and he ran and he caught up to Rembrandt?
Yeah.
Why your legs don't work that good when you chasing after his kidnapper?
He ain't got that rolling off over the back hood, the back trunk skills that the professor had. The professor should have been the run.
There we go. I was just like, what the hell is going on? But no. So that, though it annoyed me, I was like, this has to happen. Clearly, we need to get to point A, point B. How else would we have gotten there? Like, this makes sense. Rembrandt pissed me off laughing at this man, because I'm thinking, like, I feel like 95 or 2005 or 2025, if you know, especially us, there's certain things that we just know. If you have knocked me over the head with a bottle of champagne, put me in my own car and kidnap me, I am taking you so seriously that whatever you say, I'm agreeing to. You can tell me that I am a white woman named Sheila McIntyre. Oh, most definitely that's my name. I'm not arguing with you. You're a Himalayan child named Zuko. Yes. So when he laughed at this man, and that's part of the thing that aggravated me about Rembrandt in other episodes, but it's like, you are, I was thinking about The Bodyguard while watching this, because I'm also thinking about a artist, not necessarily black, but just because Whitney Houston came to mind. I'm thinking of an artist who has a stalker and is dealing with the fallout of that stalking. It's like, bro, what are you doing? This man can, even if he wasn't going to kill you, if you look around, this is like a witch's lair. This is like Agatha's basement. Like, what are we doing? Maurice was fun though. He was flamboyant. He gave me like Little Richard, I guess. To the point where I was like, I don't know if this man is gay or if he's just that big of a personality. Because a lot of what he was doing, I was like, this is teetering between freaky and freaky of the mind. I was like, what is happening here? But he was fun. Rembrandt just really pissed me off for everything you said. You don't know what this man is capable of. You don't know what he wants to do to you. And the other part is, this is not your world. So who's to say that he's even lying? Who's to say that you, Rembrandt of this world, ain't the one who is a cheap, stealing, like, you know, you are the, I don't know, Diana Ross and the Supremes of this world. Like, what? Who's to say? Yes, I'll stop there.
Well, remember, we had and this goes back to, they just pulling a lot from maybe the first episode, a couple of episodes, but remember in the first episode when he was being interrogated by that lawyer, he starts he sees he got so I'm like, so what I want to know is, like, on Earth Prime, if he ever got arrested or if he got like caught up with some shit, did he just like laugh every time he was being questioned about something?
Which is, didn't Rodney, you know what? I'm just That is stupid.
So we go back to Captain Jack's office. The professor is on the phone, or gets off the phone with the police department, and nobody's taking them seriously because they think it's a hoax. They think it has something to do with, there's a concert and you have all of the, the reappearance of Remy and then the convention, and so they don't believe them. Worst police department in the world.
Bro.
So Quinn, and I wish that this had been Wade, but it is what it is. Quinn is talking about like, well, I hacked the DMV records. It's just like it's like movie, television, computer science, hacking. But it would have been cooler if Wade had done that because that's her background.
Great.
So, and also it would have alleviated some of the hating ass shit that she was doing before. So he finds a record from the based on the license plate. He finds an address for Maurice. The real or Remy 2 shows up, and they are looking at him and they're like, wow, he looks exactly like, our Rembrandt. And yeah, I know.
Skinny man.
That brother was gaunt in the face. He was like,
I was like, he's like 40 pounds lighter. What are you talking about? This is not, but yeah.
Like, so, and I think even when Wade says something to him about like, trying to say hi, and he treats her like a fan.
Yeah.
Which is so he recognizes them as being the three people that were with Rembrandt in that footage. And basically he's like ready to be, go. He's like, this motherfucker stole my identity. And they explain to him, well, and I don't know if their explanation of sliding, I think that comes afterwards, but he explains to them, he's like, well, I'm here now, but that he faked his death to leave the business because it was getting too much, to become too much. And they explained to him that Rembrandt has been kidnapped. And when they mention his name, Remy 2 says, oh, I had that man institutionalized. Which is just like, whoa. And so, but even when they tell him, like, this is who has kidnapped him, he says something to the effect of like, well, I mean, shit, he was trying to take my identity, so I don't care. And they have to convince him, basically when they leave out, they ask if he has a car, and he says yeah. So they convince him to go to help, to go to Maurice's house and to save Remy 1. Rembrandt, we go back to, I'm just going to say Maurice's lair instead of Maurice's house. Rembrandt tells Maurice a story about him being a slider, and Maurice calls him delusional. And he starts cracking. Like every time he talks, it's just like he's getting more kind of heightened and crazy. He threatens him with murder, and I think this is where he says that he pulls out the razor or the and says like, I'm going to cut you with this. Normally I use this for my legs, but I'm going to slice you open. Like, what the hell?
What lie?
He threatens him with murder, and he says, and I'll sign your papers in blood, or have you, and it's just like, and so then this is when Maurice starts to perform the song. And it's a special it's special. And he does this brother, he got the job. They told him to come in. Shout out to Tom Pickett. You did the damn thing with this. And he performs, and like Rembrandt is just like, this is crazy. So we go back to the concert, and we see Captain Wade and Quinn go to the concert looking for the Captain Jack, and they go into this room where all of these Rembrandt impersonators, once again, they're leaning into like the Elvis side of things, Elvis impersonators. And then everybody, Wade goes in and says Rembrandt, and they all turn around and they say, I'm Rembrandt. I'm Rembrandt. I'm Rembrandt. I'm Rembrandt. And it's like two white guys with like these horrible afros. It's a bunch of like, I think there might be, outside the, mostly they're black. We got all various shades of black. It's like fight, and they all like, I'm Rembrandt, and it's just like, y'all need to circulate these black people between other episodes outside.
Man, yeah.
So it's supposed to be played for laughs, and they find Captain Jack and tell him that they know where they know where Rembrandt is, and they're going to get him. And then they leave, and I'm going to stop this right here because in my mind it's like, why did y'all take the time to have Remy to stop here and say we got to tell Captain Jack? And it's like,
yeah,
it was like, and the only reason I think they did this was to show the impersonators, and it's just like it didn't make any sense. So going back to Maurice's craziness, like thoughts about these few scenes.
Man, fuck him. I loved his scene, and what I like about this show is I don't care what genre it is. This is horror. This episode, at least on his own, this is horror. Like this is like you are locked in this man's. But they could have even been in a bathroom in a well lit living room, and it still would have been horror because it's like you can say this man is crazy, sure, but you're also in another world. You don't know his history. You're taking your version of him history and you're making light of it, and now he's threatening you with death, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you get what you want, the world where you are king, but then at what cost? At this unforeseen, it's like this was horror. This was truly terrifying, and I knew that would be all right, but I was still like wrapped up in the episode, feeling those like shit. I know they not gonna slit your throat, but like this man might kill you. I'm with you. Stopping off to speak to that man was weird when he mentioned if the kidnapper calls, tell them to call my cell phone. So he has a cell phone. Why didn't y'all just call his cell phone? So I think I take back what I said earlier because this thing could have been eliminated. However, I'm still with it. I like Maurice, and I like the just over the top. I like that he to me was the Rembrandt of this episode. He was over the top. He was cartoonish. He was the butt of the joke, and he was an integral part of this episode. Yeah, Captain Jack, fuck him. I still did it during watching this until you just said it. I didn't know that Rembrandt, the actor, had a twin brother. So in my mind, I kept saying like, okay, maybe I was trying to figure out the technology of 1995.
Yeah.
And green screen because we have two queens. You know, we've had that before. We've had two of everybody. So shout out to him. I hope he keep getting money. But yeah, I don't know. I found this a little hard. It felt like a odd Scooby-Doo episode at some points. But yeah. So I'll stop there. I'll stop there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see if he continued acting
Clinton
until 2000. So he's still alive, but he just it looks like I think he even did the Steve Harvey show. And then apparently after Different Strokes, when the laughter stopped.
This sounds like a documentary or something.
Yeah, it looked like a documentary. He made I guess an appearance or something. But yeah, so but yeah. That's his. It looks like Clavant had, he continued on with the acting. So, so the next we go back to Maurice's lair, in which we think is his house. So Remy 2 and the Sliders break into the house, and this lady, black woman, steps out with a shotgun, and she's like, what are you doing in here? And then she recognizes Remy, Rembrandt of that world, and says like, are you back? And I think she talks about like the news report, and she explains that so I guess I'm assuming Maurice was either married to her or they were together, and she kicked him out when I guess when Maurice was acting like Maurice, and and they asked like, do you have an address? And she gives him address or location where he's at, and as they leave out, he does say, Remy 2 says like, I'll do something about this door that I just busted, this glass door, glass, whatever. So So they get the actual address for where Maurice is, like you said, his witch's coven, his death dungeon, and so
Mm-hmm.
Maurice is there. Maurice is singing with the razor, kind of goofy and creepy.
Bruh.
The sliders and Remy to pull up, and the professor says, "I'll go through the back, y'all go through the front." Um, they go back to the inside of the lair. Maurice is monologuing his ass off. He
Mm-hmm.
says, "I'm gonna slice you up like a biscuit," and so then Quinn jumps in. I think he and Wade show up. I'm trying to remember the sequence. So Quinn and Wade show up. Maurice is like, like I'm gonna I ain't no, he doesn't say I ain't done something. Basically, he threatens to kill Remy. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when our
Yep.
Remy 2 shows up and he starts seeing double, right? So Quinn uses that opening to punch the fuck out of Maurice.
Mm-hmm.
They save Remy, and Rembrandt then he gets untied, and then he punches Maurice. So Maurice is just going to get his ass whooped. And
Mm-hmm.
as Quinn is taking him out, he says, "I ain't done, son." And so that's the last we see of Maurice. And so at that point, that's when you have the Miles Moraleses of each world meet each other. Now, sorry, spoiler for the second
Yo.
Multiverse, but the Remy's meet up. And Remy 2 is basically telling Rembrandt that I can see you're still hungry. They after they go over they react to each, seeing,
Mm-hmm.
looking the same and all that. Remy 2 says, a few things. He's like, I can see you're still hungry. He says, but I need to step away from the insanity. He says there's even a place in Tennessee, in Memphis, called Crying Land, where people go and visit, once again, leaning all into the other side of things. And he
Mm-hmm.
says, if you just walk a mile in my shoes, and you'll see how crazy it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rembrandt is just like, well, this is what I've wanted my whole life since I was a
Yeah.
child. And then he tells him, like, you can have my life. He says, if anything, it allows me to step back to like the solitude, the isolation that I love. And he says, here it is, brother. And they make a deal. And like Rembrandt is genuinely happy. Like he is. And it's this thing of like, I'll stop there before, because I think at the end, we get into the end and like the big
Mm-hmm.
thing there. But he just, this is what he's always wanted. And it's not done like over the top. It's I feel this is kind of like a pure moment, whatever, and he's getting his dream come true and all that. So
Yeah.
any thoughts about like the final scene with Maurice and with I think Charmaine?
Yeah, I liked her with her gun.
Yeah.
I like her because she said,
Mm-hmm.
"Fuck y'all, motherfuckers." I liked her. I liked her scene. I thought it was really good, and I especially like that because we get the basement with Maurice.
Mm-hmm.
Once we find out the address, you assume that house, he's in that basement, or at least I did. And I assumed when she pulled that gun out that she was helping them, like, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
screwed my man over. So to get that misdirect, it's like, no, he lives here. And I like how she cut into Wade, because Wade was like, oh, do you have an address? She said, it's the red house on the corner. What else do you want from me? Like, you broke in my house. Like, I will kill you. So I like that.
Yeah.
Then I also really enjoyed that the professor was not in that basement. I just
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he would have done outside of be annoying. Them beating up on Maurice, though, I was like, oh, wait a minute now. wait wait a minute, you saviors. No, let me stop. But that I enjoyed that, and seeing the two brothers, or the two doubles, touching each other.
Mm-hmm.
Again, at this time, I did not know they were twins. I was like, okay, maybe they
Yeah.
put his face on another actor. Maybe this is like a relative I don't know about. So I thoroughly enjoyed this collection of scenes. I considering a black man of a certain age, I know we're in a different world, but I was still like what's up with the aesthetic? Like, yes, y'all got the same face, but like, all like, are we just leaning into like, it's 2024 now, or
Mm-hmm.
2025 now, but
Yeah.
like, this is, you look like you brushed out a Jerry girl. I'll just say that. That's what it looks
Yeah.
like. And
So
mm.
yeah, they're not twins. I mean, are they twins?
Well, what do you mean in real life or on the show?
In real, well, like in
Yeah,
real life.
in real life,
Okay,
they're
okay,
twins.
oh, they are twins.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from Tennessee. So even the Tennessee, though it's like a Elvis reference, they are both from Tennessee as well. So there's something there
Gotcha.
too. But I don't know. I enjoyed it for what it was, and I really liked the choreography of that scene with them being so
Yeah.
close to the camera and how they mimicked the movie. So I don't know. I would imagine it was rehearsed, but they did a really good job at because this weird way that they like moved in and out of the camera with each other, but they mirrored it like back and like they kept doing it as opposed to just standing in one spot and the camera spinning like Blue Hill Avenue or something. Like I enjoyed this. So I'll say that because I have I'll say that. Good for them. I'll just say that until
So the next scene where everything's flipped upside down, just like brother can't catch a break. So we get back to forgive me. We get back to the concert, and I think I put like White Brant.
Yes.
Performing. Yeah, like so. Once again, one of these Rembrandt actually not extras, impersonators are performing, and it's like at the Apollo, people are like, "Get your ass off stage." They just don't have what was the brother's name who would come out with the
I don't know with the cane though.
Yeah, with the cane. So it's going bad. Rembrandt is getting ready to go out, and Quinn is telling him like so. Quinn says like
Yep.
I don't see the sense in you doing this because we still got like I don't know 15 minutes at this point. I can't remember the time or whatever, but he's like you were kind of short. And then Rembrandt says, well, basically I made a decision. I'm going to chill. He says that this call it fate, but I have a second chance, to live, to have the career that I wanted, and so he wants to stay. So everybody's sad, and it's funny because even with as much like hating that the professor and Wade have been doing, they look sad or whatever. So, anyways, Captain Jack, they tell him like he's back, and he goes out on stage, and Captain Jack actually comes in and he gives him like the set list of like 7 songs that he's going to sing, or 7 or 8, and they all just ridiculous. It's like Tears in My Throat, I'm a tear jerk, Weeping Well of Tears, and I was just like, okay, y'all had fun in the writers' room with this. So Remy, before he goes on stage, he tells them goodbye. He gives them all hugs, and they do keep telling him like, "Yo, we not gonna leave until like the last minute." So that's one thing I do respect is like, hey, if you change your mind, you don't have to be stuck on this world for like decades, like or whatever. So the Sliders, they do watch the show from the side because they still have some, some time. And Rembrandt does say to Quinn before he goes out, I take back all those things about this being your fault. And I was like, well, I guess when things work out good, right? So he goes out and he starts performing, and to Clement Derrick's credit, he's a talented actor. Actually, I really like him as an actor, but he's a great performer. He's a great singer. He goes out. It's like this big spectacle. He's back, and women rush the stage, and it's this big thing. And so then Remy 2 shows up, and with the Sliders watching the show, and he's like wearing a fedora and a jacket, just to kind of trench coat to hide how he looks. And they're like, oh, you've come to watch the show. And he says something to the effect of like, I just want to make sure I'm handing the reins to somebody who who deserves it. And then the professor says, the professor fucked this up for him, now to think about it.
No, this was Wade. This was Wade.
Okay, this
was
Wade.
Wade. Yes.
So the professor says something like, I admire what you do, what you're doing, and then he says, "What do you mean?" And then Wade says, I wouldn't pass up $1 million per song. And so that brother, it's like something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon. he looks at them and says $1 million per song. And so then he just runs off, and the sliders were like, that doesn't seem suspicious,
At
right?
all.
At all. So so Rembrandt is still performing on stage, and then something like out of the Five Heartbeats. He slides. I'm sorry, I'm gonna toss this shit out there.
That's it.
Like the sliding, go and see the Five Heartbeats if you haven't seen it. So he slides out. And he apparently had time to put on a suit, to, whatever. Remy too slides out on his knees, and they start battling with this song, right? And I think it's not Tears in My Fro. It's whatever. It's one of those songs and goofy ass songs, and they're going back and forth and sliding across the stage. And I don't know if somebody does a split or whatever, and
Both of them
battling. And so at a certain point, Remy too says, "Fuck this! This is my money." And he turns to the audience and just plays this dude out. He says, "Look at Rembrandt. He's the best Rembrandt impersonator ever.
Mm-hmm.
Give it up for him. Give it up." And Rembrandt just looks confused, and he's just like, "Oh no!" And he's pissed, and he got kicked out in the worst way. And the sliders are saying, take your L and go. We gotta go. Because if there's a chance that if he stays there, he's just gonna be another Rembrandt impersonator, right?
Yeah.
So his greedy ass Rembrandt. So anyway, so they go out to the alleyway. You know what? I would have jumped in front of everybody just to fuck everybody up. Yeah, just to fuck this whole show up. So and to traumatize people. So they go into the back alley. They're trying to console him. And they even say something to the effect of like, maybe on the next world, it'll be the same, or maybe somewhat similar. Right. So then Rembrandt, he comes around. He's like, you know what? Yeah, it might be the same. It might be the same. So I love the fact that he is the first one to jump through, because he's like, he's like, you know what? We're going to try this again. And so they cut to a kid looking up there next day. It's daytime, it's in a park, and the kid is looking up at somebody, and you're assuming it's Rembrandt, and he says, "Are you the king?" And they show Rembrandt and Quinn wearing these like ice cream man outfits with like the hats on or whatever. And the ice cream that they're selling is called King Ice Cream. And he's like, well, does he say like I am the king or I'm not? Like
he says I'm not, but I can't remember that. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he says something like I'm not the king, and the kid, and and the joke being like he's selling King ice cream, and and Quinn says, well, hey, at least we get free ice cream. And then like Rembrandt says something, and they just push the card away, and then it cuts the credits. And that's the end of the episode.
Just bullshit. I would have beat the fuck out of Rembrandt.
Right? Just would have
there's no way. I would have bruised. I don't even care. I don't care. Whatever. You can't arrest me. I'm about to jump anyways. I would have broke his legs. There's no way you get to do this to me. Yeah. I wanted to be mad at Wade, but I'm like, no, that's just how because she even talked to Rembrandt and was like, oh, you're not nervous? I would be nervous as heck going out there. So it's not, she didn't say anything that doesn't fit with her character, but I was like, man, shut your mouth. Shut up right now. Like, how dare you? This is the part that made me think of, and I think I may have said prosperity gospel earlier, but I don't know if that's the exact term. The gospel that's like, you just be faithful here and then you'll get your riches in heaven. And it's not a dig at religion, but that is something that I've heard going to church all the time. And it's not, I want to be very clear that I'm not, again, this isn't a dig against religion, but if that's where it put me in the mind of is like, be a faithful servant now on earth, and then you'll get all these riches ever. So even if you're not a wealthy person on earth, you will eventually get that. And that's what this felt like. Like he has been on Earth Prime, dedicated, just hasn't worked out, and then of course you're thrust into these different worlds and you have to keep jumping. But even in these worlds, you're getting the short end of the stick, but you can't survive without these other three people. So you're just going and going, and then you finally get to your version of heaven, and it's still like, nope, you just got to keep working because hopefully you'll get something. It's like, God damn it, he had it right there. And the professor said, like, yeah, you could be upset, but like, you didn't put in the work in this world. He did, and that's the only thing. And it pissed me off that I agreed. I was so
Yeah.
mad, like, oh, you fucker. Yes, that
Yeah.
is true. And but at the same time, because there was a moment in the episode when they were in the basement where, for whatever reason, I thought, oh, Rembrandt is going to switch places. So Rembrandt of this earth is just going to start sliding with them. Why would he do that? That makes no sense. But I thought he would. I was like, okay, well, maybe the stuff that Robert was talking about gets better in later seasons because it's a different Rembrandt. No, that you think it's too complex. Rein it in. Yeah, but I was pissed. I was pissed off because it's like I don't know that we're going to get this again for him. And this has been his personality since episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of got a little bit of it at the funeral episode where he got a life he wanted, but then that was ripped from him because it was a sham. So I don't know, man. I just I'm not I'm happy with the episode. It did what it needed to do, but I'm not happy with it because I don't think we're ever going to get this again. You know more than me, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't think.
Without saying specifically kind of where his story goes, we don't. I don't think we get anything like this. And what's interesting to me is that, and it's still a good first season episode because but I still think that it would have been cool to maybe have this be like second season,
Yeah.
Because I still think we should have had a Rembrandt centric episode, right? Where he kind of takes the lead, but with everything that we've talked about in what you were just saying, like this has been very important for him. Like I said, I think literally like the last episode, one of the episodes, I was like every word that comes out of his mouth is like music, 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 music. And so we give him this music episode, and then they're like, well, wacky, he's not gonna get it. And it's just like, ugh. So it's kind of like it stings, but I think maybe the second season might have worked better because that way we have more time with him, and then he's slid so much that he was like, oh shit, and if they wanted to kind of do something crazy, maybe he does get the career that he wants and they replace him with another slider, in another episode. I mean, that's one of the things that they start doing later on for all the wrong reasons, bringing in different sliders, I'm gonna keep it because that goes into the behind the scenes stuff.
Okay.
But I do think that this show leaves itself open for like a rotating cast because you would have those circumstances where like he, for his case, like if we got it like second season, like I don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep doing this. And I think that we had some time with him and now he's ready to go. So yeah, it seems kind of cruel, in a way, but I don't know. I'm getting my like final thoughts, but let me without like saying these are my final thoughts, but let's start with favorite character, least favorite character.
My favorite would have to be the second Rembrandt.
Okay.
Even though he did that fuck shit at the end, I think of him the way I think of Arturo from The World, where he like was cheating on his wife almost. It's like even though we didn't get to see that Arturo, the actions of our professor made possible a better world for the Arturo of that world. And so I like actually seeing our Rembrandt do things that, even though it was a shitty move, showed that Rembrandt, you can have more. You can have this. Your story's not done, and y'all left the world better than you came in with. Because the world gets Rembrandt again. Rembrandt gets to be back in the spotlight. You got rid of his stalker, so I say he's my favorite. The Rembrandt of that world. Least favorite. I can't go with Maurice. Maurice was fun. I want to go with the professor. I think the professor, because even Wade, even though she was talking shit too, I think if anybody was to talk shit, I would rather see it between Wade and Rembrandt than the professor, because I feel like Wade and him are just regular people who live in the world. The professor is an elitist snob asshole. So for them to and then also the intersectionality of like a woman, albeit a white woman, a woman and a black man. I would much rather see, if anybody's going to be going back and forth, them two. So I would have to say my least favorite was probably the professor. Yeah, you got to get my least favorite.
Okay. So my favorite is Maurice Fish. Because he I don't know, like, you know, they decided that the tone of this show overall is going to be campy at times a lot, and this one he leaned full into it. And I am always wanting, at least in movies or TV, the serial killer black person. Like I want to see that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I think Maurice got some bodies in that.
Oh, of course,
in that basement. I mean, has anybody checked on the other tops? That's my question.
Yeah, it was for them. Yeah.
So Maurice was my favorite, and I think he was a good antagonist. Like he kind of reminds me of I think we said Wilson was a good antagonist as compared to some of the other ones that they've had. And then my least favorite would have to be the first guy who gave that info dump, because it was just like too much. That was too much. I don't know what his name was, but I did not enjoy that scene or with him. It was a lot. So what about like favorite moment?
Favorite moment was probably the two Rembrandts together. Something about that choreography really did it for me.
Yeah.
And at that time, not knowing they were twins and thinking of episode 1 with Quinn and Evil Quinn, and how, you got to split the technology of the time. It wasn't as, I was like impressed. I was like, oh, they did a really good job. But no, stupid. This is, but even still, I like the joy I got from that scene and that movement. I'll say that's probably my favorite. Least favorite scene. It's probably, which I don't know if that's it. I'm just gonna go with Maurice knocking out Rembrandt. Like that specific part of the scene, really. I know we have to get the 8 from point A to point B, but I was like, man, you can't be this dumb. So that just specific portion of him hitting him with that champagne bottle, I was like, okay, this is stupid. You are dumb. So yeah, that's my least favorite.
Cool. So my favorite scene is probably, I think I just forgot it that quick. Trying to remember. So because there were a few. Actually, my favorite scene, that's what it was. Rembrandt having that kind of emotional moment with the sliders.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It definitely, because it's the 90s, you're thinking that you don't think that anybody from the main cast is going to leave, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, have you seen Game of Thrones? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so you saw the first season, right?
Yes.
Nowadays, motherfuckers don't live, right?
At all.
I won't spoil it for anybody else, but like if you watch that first season and there's a huge death that happens, you're like, oh shit, I saw that person in all the ads, right?
Yes.
So in the 90s, you're thinking like the team's gonna stay complete, right? But this is a moment where that possibly couldn't happen because it was so serious, right?
Yeah.
And so I really like that scene, and I think that it gave everybody a chance to kind of like emote, a bit. And I'd say my least favorite scene would be, I'm just going to go back to it. The guy with the info dump. Only because there were so many other ways that we got clues about Rembrandt's background, or Remy, the Remy of this world, that it didn't feel like forced and rushed. So I don't know, like between that and like the Amish lady and Eggheads, I don't think that they did well with having these people provide information. So crucial information about the story. So final thoughts and I guess a rating based on out of 10 bad Rembrandt impersonators.
Oh Lord. Uh I I would rate this high. I would honestly rate this episode high. Um I I don't think it was a 10. I I'm gonna rate this. I'm gonna just do it 8.5. And I say that because one, it's a Rembrandt centric episode. We focus on the thing that he's been stressing about forever.
Yeah.
Though he didn't win in the end, he did. Just not this version of him. And I do think for the most part, if they're not being murdered, most of the people who encounter their counterparts, what did Wade say one episode? I forget which one, but she was like, I'd like to think that even if I die, I know there's Wades out there that exist.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of all the episodes, this is the one that, despite the little critiques here and there and the smart talking, or whatever, this was a really good Rembrandt episode.
Mm-hmm.
And this was an episode that, though it does have flaws here and there, I am happy with Rembrandt. I'm happy with his depiction overall, and my anger is not towards the episode in general. It's like little stuff that I can overlook. So I'm gonna give this an 8.5. I don't know that there's a 10 episode out there, but this 8.5
Mm-hmm.
for me. Um Also final thoughts. The Rembrandt versus Arturo. This is another reason why I rated this higher, is that Arturo is shitty. Um, for those of you who have seen Riverdale, I did review it like the first couple seasons. I fell off, but one thing that Riverdale did that pissed me off is they kept centering Archie, Veronica, Betty, and Jughead as the heroes. But the shit that they would do to other cast members would make the characters, not the actual people, was so shitty. I was like, how do you? These people are terrible. Like blackmailing them, like, oh, we're gonna stay pop shop. Oh, you don't want to sing? Well, I'm gonna blackmail you to sing to help this. Just like, no, you're a bad person. And that's how I feel about Arturo. If you look at his reasoning for wanting to stay in the world where he the weaker sex versus Rembrandt's decision to stay here, it's two totally different
Yeah.
vibes. Arturo, you're giving it to the man or the woman at this point,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no way that women can be good at anything that a man can. But in this, it was like, this is the world this is my paradise. This is my heaven. And yeah, I'd like to get back home, but like, this is home, and I can see this being home. And so that I thoroughly enjoyed. And another reason why I do not like the professor, I think I hate him. I think that's all I got. I think that's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think my rating is going to be like an 8
Okay.
for the episode. So um I'm gonna have to go back to like episodes 1 through 5 to see where we're at. But um yeah, but this is one of the higher rated episodes that we've tackled.
Yeah.
I think final thoughts. I came into this for us recording, thinking like, because it's been a while since I've seen these episodes, and one of the things that stands out is Maurice.
Yeah.
Being in the kind of the camp factor and just kind of being over the top,
Mm-hmm.
and just the situation itself, because we're in a world where Rembrandt is more like Elvis, and it's the only thing I wish they had mentioned was in this episode, somebody making a joke about somebody says and this is just me, the writer in me, Wade or Quinn or the professor probably saying, "Hey, you're like Elvis on this world," and then Rembrandt says, "I don't steal music from black people." So so I would have like had something like that.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging, like, we know y'all are doing the comparisons, but so there's a comedy side of things, but then you also kind of look at it with from Remy's perspective of like, this is what I've wanted, for a while. And because this episode is so tight, it's not meandering. I don't think we even have a B plot, to be honest with you. Everything is just contained on Rembrandt, and for that, and those few reasons, I think I'll leave it at an 8. I think this is it's like a succinct story that and it doesn't feel like they didn't have to save the damn world or change society. He just got the rug pulled out from under him because of his dreams. So, but
Oh, really good, really good. And there wasn't also a hellish world like this.
No. I mean, it was like, I mean, like, well, apparently on Gilligan's Island, not Gilligan's Island, the Skipper's Island, Gilligan or somebody's being treated like shit. But we didn't get like a crazy alternate history. Like, what if Hitler had won? And apparently Rembrandt is Elvis. And I was just like, whoa, let's go back to the Nazis winning the war of this world. But
that's crazy. That's especially the Michael Jackson
Public Enemy.
That was interesting too. That was a nice little name drop. I enjoyed that, but that had me thinking about the way the show, and this is probably going to sound like, well, I'm gonna just say it. With the way the show is set up and the worlds that we're hopping from, if on the first world I'm the president, in the second world I'm a plumber, because me, you, and 2 other people are jumping, we're going to see me as the president, me as the plumber. But what happens if there's 4 other people who are jumping? They don't know who I am in their own world. So in this world, when I'm that's been something that's been kind of running in the back of my head probably since the first or second episode. Like, I know right now we don't have a whole bunch of sliders just everywhere, but there's something to every world being so different. But who's to say that, I'm going to sound silly, who's to say that the world for you, Robert, that's terrible is a world that's great for me? But while I hopped into this world while I'm president, and then you hopped into this world, I have no interaction with you. So you could just be on here for 5 minutes and I'm here for 24 hours. Am I making sense or am I just rambling? Because I'm thinking, even if we never go back to any of these other worlds again, we know there's another Quinn out there that's just hopping around looking for his own paradise. It's I don't know. I'll wrap this up because I could ramble on that forever. But that's something I've been thinking about, is how the very nature of this show lends itself to so many different variations of show tone, because you could very well do a slider show and then you could do a spinoff that is just a serious show, and it could run the exact same time, and they might cross over and they might not, but it's so many possibilities. But that's it. I feel like
this is a type of concept where, like you said, it lends itself to just going anywhere, and I think with us now being in this world where people are willing to do spinoffs on top of spinoffs on top of spinoffs of a major IP. We mentioned one of them, Game of Thrones. They got the House of the Dragon, right? Who would have thought that we were like, oh, we are more hyped about a prequel to that world than we were those last few seasons of that show. So I think that definitely it lends itself to doing that if they ever revisit this concept. And I think like the closest example that I could give to something that's doing that is like What If? What If, because they've had a horror themed episode, with Marvel Zombies. They've had I call it Ren Fair, Renaissance Fair type of episode where they went back to, like, was it Marvel 1612? So like you have these different tones, you have these different worlds. So we'll see. I think definitely when we do like this, I was gonna say end of year, end of season wrap up, that's that we can definitely toss out more ideas and stuff, because like I think that there are directions that the show has gone that we vibe with,
Yeah.
and others that we don't necessarily vibe with, and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like that becomes our what if, and that's what I do in the crossing. You can
Yeah.
find 133art.com. It's like my sliders, mine are creative team sliders. So
Mm-hmm.
133art.com, search for the crossing. But yeah, it's one of the better episodes of the season.
Yeah, I agree. So shout out to everybody involved, the twins. That was they did what they needed to do. That was cool. I don't know, man. Just I guess let these people know where to find you, at a slide to support you, and all that good stuff.
They can on Instagram, Robert Robert.Jeffrey. Website is Robert K. Jeffrey, JEFFREY.com, Robert K. Jeffrey.com. And on this thing that we call Bluesky, I'm gonna get better with this because I don't use the musky world anymore. On Bluesky, you can find me at RJ Ryder. That's RJ Ryder, and I think the rest is like .bsky .social. But RJ Ryder will pull up my account on there. So those are the three main places. And how about you?
You can find me with my twin. No, Twitter, TikTok, Wallace here, and Bluesky, Carefree Blur. I don't know. Carefree Blur, Carefree Black Nerd. Y'all find me somewhere on there. I don't know. YouTube, I know it's Carefree Black Nerd. If you're watching this, just check the channel for all the other videos. Also check out the 4400 review that we have as well. And if you are listening through podcasts, then clearly you're where you're supposed to be. So just kind of dig through other episodes on the platform. And happy New Year, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Happy New Year.
It was before I forget, because we are kind of wrapping up the year, I just realized something. So one of the co-creators of the show, this guy, his name is Tracy Torme. He actually passed away this year. Yeah, he passed away in January of this year. So want to give a shout out to him. I think he and Robert K. Weiss are the creators of the show. But because we are wrapping up the year, just wanted to, and everybody does these like remembrance. So he's somebody from the world of sliders who passed away. But and as far as I know, like to the day he passed, he was talking about trying to do something with the show. But
he was young. Jesus.
Yeah. I think it was 64.
Yeah, I'm looking at him now. He looked the same. He looked the same. Well, does his face, but this man looks the same his whole life. That's him. Man, well, rest in peace to him. This episode was definitely in remembrance of Tracy Torme. Jesus Christ. Ooh.
On that happy note,
no, right, Jesus.
Well, I was thinking because, like you said, we're it's the end of the year. New Year's is going to be tomorrow night. I'll just be in the house because
same. They're gonna shoot
old and staying in the house. There's nothing wrong with that.
Same. Lord. Okay, well, y'all. Well, shout out to y'all listeners and viewers, and until next time, stay carefree, stay nerdy, stay geeky, and if you do happen to slip and slide to a world where you get everything you desire, check the fine print and tell your friends to keep their mouth closed about the benefits they're getting. God dang it. Shoot, that made me so mad.
Hey, man. $1 million.